On this topic of SOPs and policies, give us a bit of a dive into the WizeHub and show us how that looks like in this system.
If you're struggling with like a place to store it or just a way to conceptualize how you would lay out the SOPs, even if you don't use this, it's still really good for conceptualizing it at the very least, although it's great for using it as well. You can see the 7 divisions I mentioned before. They're all laid out here. And again, if you click on how to, it brings you to this policies and procedures section of the WizeHub. And again, it's laid out according to the 7 divisions. And I think it's just so helpful thinking about it like this. Folks I know who do have relatively advanced like libraries still struggle with, well, where do I put things? How do people find them? Is it from naming? We have in my own firm just like an image of the seven divisions and what sits in each portfolio, so that they get a sense of where they would look to. And then accompanying that image are the 7 folders here, where you've got each division and all the SOPs that would sit in that division. I number them just like Jamie does. So 6 is division 6, point 1, point 2, point 3, point 4. I've got about 50 SOPs in the draft format currently. So it is important to have like a numbering system just to keep track of things. And the names of the SOPs can change. So again, having a number system I find is just really, really helpful. And really the process from, starting one to completing it is part of the SOP, if you will, of how to make SOPs. So you've got just 2 there, draft and approved. But throughout the whole process of creating it, we approve them at the board level, we approve them at the client manager level in the weekly tactical. And then there's a section of the SOP where it says training. Is there any training required? Because, how good is an SOP if it just sits in a virtual drawer and no one else in the organization knows it exists? And I used to email the SOPs around to everybody, and they're not going to read the SOP. I wouldn't read one if it was emailed to me. And so we realized pretty quickly we had to do training, whether it was by a team or just having the practice manager, the office manager sit down with all the key people and train them. It doesn't really matter as long as it's in real life, in a video environment, whatever it is, real time, train them, allow feedback. We might even tweak it at that stage if still needed, because it's not set in stone. It's not the 10 commandments. It's a living document that can keep changing. But this is just probably the best example I've seen of, how to store the SOPs, how to create them. You can see all these are in draft mode still. He hasn't actually approved them yet. So when you click approved, it'll change to approved, and you can see all the ones that are approved versus the ones that are in draft. You can put in the author or creator if that's necessary. You can put the date that they were created. You can also link here videos if there's a Loom video, and sometimes videos are easier. Like a 2-minute video is way better than a document for how to use software, for instance. You can link that video here. If there's a document, I love documents as well. You can link the document here as well in the links feature. You can also link, let's just say you've got stuff in your own SharePoint, you can link that to here. This isn't SharePoint, this is its own software, and it's really a hub. It's not supposed to replace Microsoft 365 or what have you. But yeah, it's just a really, really good way of conceptualizing the divisions. The other key thing for accountability, there's 2 more key things I would just say quickly. That is, every single one of these divisions has someone who's accountable for that division. If it's quality control, it's CTO. If it's marketing, it's CMO. If it's sales, it's the client managers. You know what I mean? So every, CFO for accounts, every single division has someone who really is accountable for making that portfolio or division run smoothly. The SOPs are a tool to help them in their job. So if you don't have people who are accountable to these divisions, the SOPs are great in conceptually, but they won't have much value for implementing change in your practice, if that makes sense. So it's really key to have people who are accountable for each division. And then let's say you hired a new CFO. Wouldn't it be great if you could just give them a whole list of SOPs that tell them how to do their job well? Instead of having, this is how Jerry used to do it, or this is how Barry does it. These are the SOPs on how to run that division effectively. And I would encourage them, if there's any issues that come up while you're trying to run that division, maybe that's cause to create another SOP. Please feel free to recommend SOPs that are gaps in what we already have. or videos and get them to do that. So, and the other way of getting people accountable is include as many people as appropriate in creating the SOP. Please, please, please do this. When I first started, I love writing. I sat in my little room, wrote all these SOPs. They were beautifully written, and people kind of ignored them. And when I started doing it Jamie's way, which is involving people in creating the SOP, all of a sudden I got buy-in. The SOP was 10 times better than if I had written it alone. And not just that, I got the buy-in. So we always do it at the weekly tactical because I want the client managers, who are really like the leaders of the business, to be involved in the creation of an SOP, or at least minimum, they're signing off on an SOP. They're saying, yep, that's fine by us, because often it's standardization. If you've got multiple teams, for instance, you want to make sure that everyone's aligned and you don't want to get political. There's so many reasons why it makes sense, not just for buy-in, but there's so many reasons why it makes sense to involve the leaders in your firm in the creation of SOPs. So I would just say, keep people accountable to the SOPs by having chief roles in these 7 divisions and involve the logical people in your business in the creation of the SOPs as well to get buy-in. Absolutely crucial.
I once again have to emphasize, if you're a firm that is growing quickly, or even if you're not growing quickly, you're just feeling like things are chaotic and work is taking too much of your time, a lot of investment needs to be made into systemizing aspects of your firm. And ultimately, that's going to manifest itself into the form of an SOP.